Dollars from FEMA to improve the city's stormwater drainage system and to help with future flooding. Senator Bill Cassidy made the announcement back in May, and this morning Senator Cassidy is here in the studio with us talking about the infrastructure bill. And you were one of the authors of the infrastructure bill. It was a bipartisan bill. It brought tons of money to Louisiana. The Republican delegation from Louisiana voted against it, but they will be touting some of the money coming to the state.
Well, I can't say why they voted against it, but I can say why I voted for it. I think on a per capita basis, Louisiana will get more money from this infrastructure bill, both the public investment, but the private investment that comes after, than any other state in the nation.
Why couldn't they go over the politics of it and look at what's good for the state of Louisiana and for the rest of the country? Infrastructure is needed. President Trump tried to get it passed, couldn't get it passed. President Biden did with Republican help.
Eric, I can't speak for others. All I can say is, from my perspective, this bill helps us catch up where we should be in 2023, and it builds an economy for 2050. There'll be people moving to our state to take advantage of the opportunity that this bill's creating, as opposed to leaving our state seeking opportunity elsewhere. And that's great for our state.
And we're getting ready for a big gubernatorial debate a week from this Thursday. And one of the big questions that I think is so important is the state is losing population. We're losing a lot of our young. They're educated here, but they're leaving to go get jobs elsewhere. We need business in this state. We need to retain people.
And this infrastructure bill is going to create that. By the way, there's the initial stuff we're doing, which is flood mitigation, coastal restoration, making sure that everyone in Louisiana has access to high-speed, affordable internet. But it's what we're building for the future. There's an energy transition where we'll still use fossil fuel, oil and gas, but we're going to decrease the carbon intensity of our products. In this bill, we've already received, I'm told, $27 billion of public and private investment related to that transition. And there's going to be billions more. There's opportunity for that young person who wants to get on the ground floor of an industry which is going to be like oil and gas once was. It's going to be the energy transition is the new oil and gas, if you will.
But you do see the hypocrisy in your party when you have a Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama touting money from the infrastructure bill coming to the state of Alabama, which he voted against.
Well, I can't again speak for Tommy. All I can say is that Louisiana is going to be a state in 2050 that looks back on 2023 as an inflection point. And the infrastructure bill is a large measure of that.
And where do you see the Republican Party right now? I mean, you have, we watched the debate the other night on Fox, and the candidates, when they were asked by Bret Baier, if Donald Trump is convicted, not indicted, but convicted, would you still support him? They almost all raised their hands.
Well, a couple didn't.
Well, Chris Christie half did, Asa Hutchinson did not,
Yeah.
but everybody else did.
But I can't comment on that. All I can say is that the Republican Party should be a party about the rule of law. It should be that no one is above the law. No one should be unfairly targeted, but no one should be above. On the other hand, I also think that any of those folks up there would be better than Joe Biden. Joe Biden's inflation has, among other things, increased the cost of our property and casualty insurance.
But again, the one person who was not there was Donald Trump. And I'll ask you the question that Bret Baier asked them. If Donald Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him?
I would not. I don't think that we should have a felon who is our president, whoever that person is. And I'm hopeful that there'll be options presented to the American people. By the way, we've got Joe Biden, who might be an accessory to Hunter Biden's crimes. And then we have what you
Which is unproven so far.
Unproven, but is also unproven regarding President Trump, in fairness. And so we could end up with that situation. So I'm hoping that I hope the American people have a choice beyond that.
And where do you see the two parties on doing more? Because the infrastructure bill was needed. It is very important for this country. A lot of the money that was sent out during COVID, which was well intended, $500 billion was stolen.
Yeah. So I don't know the exact amount.
But it's a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Believe me, 1 penny is too much, and it was a lot. But on the infrastructure bill, there is it's not all of a sudden that it's going out, because all of a sudden the economy is going to crater. It's going out gradually. and a lot of measures, it has to be state matching dollars that come to it. That brings accountability. In some cases, there are private dollars that have to match, which brings another level of accountability. The contracts, for example, bringing high-speed affordable internet across Louisiana, and by the way, Louisiana will receive more per capita than any other state towards this high-speed affordable internet, is going to private entities with contracts that are public record, able to be evaluated, being let over 3 to 5 years. So there's kind of a better way to monitor.
Did you also vote for the CHIPS Act? Because that also will increase the economy and put us on the world stage for chip manufacturing.
I did vote for the CHIPS Act. If China attacks Taiwan, Louisiana will lose 40% of its access to chips that currently are essential to our economy. We cannot be vulnerable for 40% of our chip supply. So I frankly don't really like the idea that we have to do this, but if we're thinking about China threatening Taiwan, which they are, then we have to ensure that we're not going to be left chip-free.
And do you see the two parties finally coming together to go over politics and look at common sense? The common sense thing is you do invest in infrastructure. The common sense is you do try to get chips made in this country.
Well, I think so. I've been working really hard on a reform for National Flood Insurance Program, affecting lots of people.
And that's a huge issue.
Huge. My partner is a guy named Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey. You need 60 votes in the Senate to pass anything, meaning you need both Democrats and Republicans. We've got two parties, two regions, a conservative, a liberal. We're trying to bring it so that we can get a coalition to pass it.
And flood insurance doesn't just affect here, it's all over the country.
It is, but in some states far more than others. So they got hit by Superstorm Sandy in New Jersey. We know our anniversary of Katrina. So Florida is hit, for example, California to an extent.
And Florida's about to be hit again.
And Florida's about to be hit again. So we are trying to build that coalition. And when you say, can common sense break out? It is common sense that we need to have a program which is more affordable, more accountable, more sustainable. That's what we're trying to do.
And right now, we just had Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, and he was talking about restoring the coastline. He is not a fan of the diversion project. He wants to see more dredging and build up islands. Where do you stand on that?
Well, in the infrastructure bill, there's $3 billion coming to states hit by natural disasters in the last 6 years. That's about as close to an earmark as we could get.
Yeah.
And Louisiana is going to receive the lion's share of that. There has to be dollars coming down that will rebuild our coastline and protect us from flooding. By the way, the Bayou region, Lafourche and Terrebonne, has already received hundreds of millions of dollars from this to complete both coastal restoration projects but also levee protection. And it's already worked to prevent flooding after Hurricane Ida. So we're making a lot of progress on this. And again, one more example, the infrastructure bill helping us.
And on that note, and we haven't got a whole lot of time, but insurance costs have been rising. A lot of insurance companies have left Louisiana. Tons have left Florida. There's got to be some way that the federal government or state governments, I mean, we tried here in Louisiana, can step in and help out with that.
So on property and casualty, that is a state level issue. But on the other hand, Biden's inflation has negatively impacted this. Is it Biden's inflation or worldwide inflation, or both?
Well,
when the United States has inflation, it can trigger worldwide. And so when the inflation rate goes up, these insurance companies are required to have safe investments like treasury bills yielding 1% and 2% and 3% interest.
Well, interest rates are up right now, so it should be good.
No, because they have to add more to their reserve because the low interest-bearing treasuries they have are yielding less. A little complicated, but that inflation that's triggered by President Biden's presidency has forced them to put more money into reserve, which means they have to increase premiums to pay for those greater reserves.
But the question I'm asking is there some way the federal government can step in and help with insurance companies so they don't leave all these coastal areas?
Well, that's going to be a state issue unless it's the National Flood Insurance Program, which is part of the issue, and that's what we're trying to fix.
All right, Senator Bill Cassidy, please come back again.
I will, Eric. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you for coming in. We appreciate that.